After more than a dozen homicides so far this year, the City Council in Paterson, New Jersey is set to vote on a resolution this evening calling on Governor Chris Christie to declare a state of emergency in their city, all in order to deal with street crime. Supporters of tonight's vote, they're hoping it will free up financial aid to pay for additional police officers and social programs in Paterson. But Governor Christie says Paterson, they're not getting more money from the state until the city is managed far better. The city of Paterson currently receives $21 million from the state. The city saw more than 100 shootings last year, maybe not so coincidentally, when it laid off 125 police officers. Joining us now to explain, the mayor of Paterson, New Jersey, Jeffery Jones. Thank you for a few minutes, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Well, let me give the rationale that the City Council laid out, and this coming from its president, who said that the situation on the ground in Paterson constitutes a man-made emergency comparable to that of certain natural disasters. Do you agree that the violent situation on the streets of Paterson has reached that kind of, if not epidemic, but extreme danger situation?
I would disagree.
Why so? And I know you're not in favor of this resolution tonight. Tell the viewers why.
Okay, well, what the council president has presented as being so dire would suggest that there's rampant and recklessness every moment of every day, and every citizen has to run and hide for cover, which isn't the case. The actual truth of the matter is that the Paterson Police Department, and in cooperation with the prosecutor's office, the FBI, the ATF, and U.S. Marshals, the state police, have been working rather vigilantly to move what we know as crime in certain areas from those areas to other places. We have been able to see a stop and decline in that activity, but unfortunately, and I mean unfortunately, it has shown itself in other places, and not in places that we would say are characteristically common. They are places and spaces by which there is no indication that those crimes would exist. So does that constitute rampant? No. It constitutes that there's a social maladjustment that's happened, that folks have little or no regard for human life, and that they can, as they choose and when they choose, do things, whether it's with a car, a gun, a fire, and they're going to do it. I think the governor's response is incorrect. I think the governor needs to respond accurately, that the city council, not the city of Paterson, I am the city of Paterson, that the council represent the legislative body, and they can ask for the moon. They have to do it in a form of legislation, and I have to sign it. And since there was no conversation with myself or my department, then this is just wishful thinking.
Do you acknowledge that your city, for whatever the reason, you've got a problem with violence right now?
I would acknowledge that, yes, a reduction in police on the streets would always suggest that you have less people to do enforcement. But I would also suggest, and very strongly, that the city of Paterson operates a 4-on-4 schedule, which means I have plenty of officers, but through contracts well beyond this term, they are not available to me.
Let's talk about the governor and what he said, and also the city council, because both of them said that there's been, and I'm quoting the governor here, gross mismanagement, disgraceful managing of city financing. The city council president said, hey, you know what? You got to point the finger at the mayor's office. Speak specifically to what the governor said, which was you're not getting more money till you guys can manage your finances more appropriately. And he was specific, Mr. Mayor. He said, this is a mayor here who paid himself overtime during a storm. Does any of this ring true to you? Do you bear any of the responsibility for the money problems in your city?
Well, listen, the governor is a very interesting fellow. I would like to talk about the energy dollars that we didn't get, that he chose to move someplace else, but then we would get nothing done that way. As it relates to the overtime, I had nothing to do with overtime. It's a part of a process that failed. And everyone keeps suggesting that I took a check. I didn't take a check. A check was prepared and given to me. There was no checks and balances, I would agree. And that's part of a historical failure with the process here. We've corrected that. But we corrected that in partnership, in tandem with the state, who has been watching and managing the city's systems for years. So to that degree, we're both culpable if we want to talk about it. If you want to talk to me, Governor, about what is and happened in the city of Paterson, let's talk. I talk to your staffs and your department. We stay above board and on the table. We talk about the issues as they relate, and we address them. And when you're not clear, DCA, about issues only after we do it or after it has happened, then how do we expect to see some real reform? And then again, take a bit of your own advice. Straighten out the state of New Jersey.
At the end of the day, regardless of who said what, does there need to be more law enforcement presence because there's a real security and safety issue in the city of Paterson? Forget the players here for a minute, Mr. Mayor. Do the people of your city say, we don't feel safe, we need more help?
Well, I would say without question, if a person has to walk out their door and doesn't feel safe, you've got to do what you have to do to make them feel that way. However, the reality is still, I don't have the bodies to place in every corner every hour of the day. It's just not possible. The state of New Jersey clearly has its own problems. We are a microcosm of that larger problem. We have too many taxes, not enough jobs, we don't encourage urban growth, and yet we want to keep people locked into this mindset that clean up, straighten up because we say so. How are you going to get anything done that way?
Mayor Jones, I appreciate a few minutes as always. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
All right, a lot to talk about. We're going to discuss that conversation right after this. Stay with us.